Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-003. Object Class, Euclid.
SCP-3.
Special Containment Procedures. SCP-3 is to be maintained at a...
The ones, these lower number SCP, for some reason, whenever the number seems more sinister, like he said SCP-3, rather than SCP-682 or SCP-173, SCP-1. Like, it's just seems more
constant
sinister.
temperature of no less than 35 degrees Celsius and ideally kept above 100 degrees Celsius. No living multicellular organisms of Category 4 or higher complexity may be allowed to come into contact with SCP-3. In the event of total power failure, if SCP-3-1 begins to increase its mass, assigned personnel must engage in skin contact with SCP-3-1. Ideally, personnel may use their body heat to return SCP-3-1 to above the critical temperature. However, skin contact must be maintained even in event of SCP-3 reaching activation temperature, lasting at minimum until SCP-3-1 advances fully to its second growth stage. Personnel who
I
enter
don't like how that
SCP-3's
sounds.
containment
Growth
area
stage.
must first be examined for body parasites of Category 4 or higher complexity and sterilized if such organisms are present. All personnel who have come in physical contact with SCP-3-1 are to immediately report for sterilization afterwards. SCP-3-1 must not be removed from SCP-3-2 except in case of emergency procedures detailed above. Any significant change in SCP-3-2's rune activity, including pattern, frequency, or color, should be reported within 3 hours of occurrence. Cessation of rune activity must be reported immediately. SCP-3-2 must be supplied with power via the source designated Generator 0039 at all times. Description: SCP-3 consists of 2 related components of separate origin, referred to as SCP-3-1 and SCP-3-2. SCP-3-1 appears to be composed of chitin, hair, and nails of unknown biology, arranged in a configuration similar to that of a computer motherboard. Testing reveals SCP-3-1 to predate earliest known circuit boards by a factor of thousands of years. SCP-3-1 is considered sentient, but not actively dangerous except under certain conditions. SCP-3-1 was found on a stone tablet, SCP-3-2, on which it currently resides. The runes on SCP-3-2 are not part of any known language, and emit pale, flickering light patterns. SCP-3-2 is controlled by a non-biological internal computer, the contents of which are mostly inaccessible without risk of damaging SCP-3-2. SCP-3-2 is capable of controlled emissions of radiation, including heat, light, and anomalous radiation types. SCP-3-2 contains an internal power source of an anomalous nature, which appears to have been losing powers since several centuries before discovery. It is considered probable that SCP-3-2 was created for the purpose of containing SCP-3-1. Partially interpreted data recovered from SCP-3-2 may refer to a past and/or potential future LK-class restructuring event caused by SCP-3-1. SCP-3 was located
Like
by
it does sound
viewing
restructuring
tube
event.
SRV-04 beta. It appears possible that SRV-4 beta was deliberately contacted by SCP-3-2. Other organizations have also been alerted to SCP-3's existence, possibly by similar means. Despite this activity, SCP-3-2 does not appear to be sentient, based on its lack of reaction to M03 Gloria analysis and procedures. When SCP-3 drops below the temperature of 35 degrees Celsius, both components react. First, SCP-3-1 enters a growth state characterized by an exponential increase in mass. This growth state consists of 2 stages. In both stages, SCP-31 partially fuels its growth by converting matter around it, starting with any surrounding inorganic material, including atmospheric elements, then non-living organic material, including
So
cells
with
of
like
dead
oxygen?
skin, hair, chitin, enamel, keratin, and other biological materials. The first stage is always the same. SCP-31 will first increase its mass, then take a form similar in shape to an alpha-uroid, brittle star, of 15 meters in diameter, including what appears to be a central processor of 3 meters in diameter. It will form sensory organs that appear to scan its surrounding environment, and will partially convert the area around it to an unidentified anomalous substance. SCP-32 seems immune from conversion. The second stage describes a growth alteration which occurs when SCP-3 comes into contact with living organic material. SCP-3 appears to template itself off of the organic material and will attempt communication with organisms that match its initial template or templates. In its second stage, SCP-31 may pause, slow, or change its growth, and will also convert inorganic and non-living organic elements into functionally similar structures while anomalously altering their physical makeup. While growth is consistent in the first stage, in the second stage, SCP-31's growth rate is diminished by 20 to 90%, as long as SCP-31 remains in contact with living organic material. The percentage is determined by the complexity of the organism or organisms in contact with SCP-31. SCP-31 appears to devote a large amount of processing power to analysis of living organic material. During each of SCP-31's growth stages, SCP-32 releases bursts of radiation that temporarily inhibit SCP-31's growth, or reverse this growth when the temperature of SCP-31 rises above 100 degrees Celsius. Similar radiation emissions have been replicated or recorded via other anomalous means.
Okay, so the thing is,
SCP-31's biology has been the subject of extensive study. Significant elements have been identified similar to SCP-1512 and SCP-2756, the latter two of which have no further confirmed connection with SCP-31 and no known connection with each other, and none of which are fully understood, technically even less understood than SCP-3, thanks to the extensive cross-disciplinary research on the SCP-3 objects. To date, no convincing analysis has been put forward which satisfactorily explains SCP-31's connection to these SCP objects or others, nor its connection to modern technology beyond appearance, and potential mimicry via unknown mechanism. Addendum 301. Acting on information gathered from linguistic analysis of SCP-32's runes and comparative data analysis, Research Team M03 Gloria has managed to establish a link between SCP-3 and for analysis of its functions. SCP-31 must now be considered sentient and is to be kept a minimum of 1 kilometer from and the resulting byproduct at all times. Addendum 302. SCP-32's power loss has been exacerbated by the procedures performed by M03 Gloria. On orders of O510, M03 Gloria will continue procedures. Addendum 303. During M03 Gloria procedures, SCP-31 doubled its mass and began rapid structural growth. Temperature was immediately returned to 100 degrees Celsius. Growth and mass increase of SCP-31 continued for 9 minutes and 9 seconds, at which time a sustained radiation spike was produced by SCP-32. In response, SCP-31 returned to its normal state in 3 minutes and 39 seconds. New growth dissolved into a dusty residue which was collected for analysis. Both SCP-31 and SCP-32 ceased all detectable activity. SCP-32 did not resume activity until connected to external power source. SCP-32's runes glowed uniformly gray and did not resume normal activity for 3 hours. SCP-32 no longer appears to be able to maintain containment area at a temperature above 35 degrees Celsius without external power supplied by generators 3 through 9. Addendum 304. The procedure detailed in Addendum 303 was repeated, and SCP-31 again entered a growth state. After 10 minutes and 13 seconds, SCP-32 once again produced a sustained radiation spike. SCP-31's growth stopped for 36 seconds, then it resumed at its previous pace. On quadrupling its mass, SCP-31 formed a coherent outer shell and body. After appearing to scan its environment and partially converting its environment, SCP-31 then breached containment, entering the observation gallery where 9 members of M-03 Gloria were present. On physical contact with the team members, SCP-31 encompassed them in rapidly grown appendages and stopped growth for 15 minutes. SCP-31 then resumed growth and rearranged the component parts of the center of its form to the shape of a 3-meter-tall female humanoid, with peripheral tentacles shifting to extrude primarily from SCP-31's newly formed hair and spine. SCP-31 then produced rudimentary vocalizations in an apparent initial attempt to communicate with researchers.
Data
An
exposed.
individual approached the compromised containment area in company of a full squad of agents. The individual claimed to be acting on orders of O510 and attempted communication with SCP-31. Following this incident, Agent Jackson of M-03 Gloria successfully restored power to SCP-32 and activated backup generators to return the temperature to 100 degrees Celsius. SCP-31 returned to its normal state within 21 minutes and 7 seconds, and was successfully recontained without incident. All 9 members of M-03 Gloria affected by SCP-31 were afterwards found to be physically unharmed, with no residual side effects besides psychological trauma. The converted materials of SCP-3's former containment area did not dissolve and are now under analysis. Addendum 305. In light of the previous incident, O510 was removed from the O5 Council by joint decision of O5 and O5. M-03 Gloria procedures have been indefinitely suspended. Special Access Program M-03 Gloria required. Incident Report A21B, Cycle 8, for dissemination to O5 Command and staff. Interviewers redacted. Present O52, 5, 7, 10, and staff. Interviewed Dr. Tilda David Moose, M-03 Gloria Lead. Excerpt 5A.
She tried to talk to us. We all heard her voice in our heads, in a sort of half language we couldn't fully understand. Some of the others passed out immediately. I lasted a little longer, but it wasn't because of mental fortitude. It's just that she was trying to tell us different things. She showed Jones a replay of all the memories of everything Jones ever felt anything about, all over the course of a few minutes.
Damn.
She ripped 3 of the researchers apart and put them back together unharmed. She doesn't understand human emotion or pain, or very much about how we experience the world. Yes, I would say the containment procedures are necessary. Listen, she wants to remake the world into a paradise. A paradise filtered through her own alien understanding of paradise, but still a paradise designed for us, for humanity. She would be happy to make a paradise for any sufficiently complex organism she comes across first. Anything with a complex enough mind to accept her. Say, a dog or a housefly. If she breaches again, we have to be there first. What would it be like? I don't know. She showed us images. Not quite images. I can see them in my head, but they're not pictures. The closest thing I can think of is what you see when you close your eyes suddenly and tightly, but brighter and more complex. The images had
I know what he means.
sounds associated with them, sensory details that we don't have the words or concepts to describe. The whole effect felt
Is this like a
words
god?
of some kind. I believe she wanted to see what we could understand, so she could understand us. She didn't have time to finish analyzing us. I don't know what would have happened if she had.
This concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Why did that feel so much more intense?
Nobody? Your special thank you at the end.
It's funny how that frame rate starts going down. The longer my computer's on, the more the frame rate drops. But that's crazy. So it said SCP-003 is that little red thing that was on it that keeps that thing in check. It keeps it from growing too rapidly, too fast. What I guess too rapidly would be too fast. Too big, too fast, let's say. And it, like I said, it emits radiation, also stops it. But it needs power. It didn't have the power, so it was able to grow expeditiously. I almost said expeditiously. I looked at a clip of Lean on Me. When Morgan Freeman said, he's like, you're going to kill yourself. I said, don't fuck around with it. Go ahead and do it expeditiously. Anyway. So this thing just grows and consumes everything. And then pretty much figures out what will make you happy by having, I guess, tearing you apart and putting you back together. Like I said, it tore 3 people apart and put it back together. I wonder if they feel that. Like, it's something, if a being or a deity or whatever had the power to physically just take you to pieces, like just instantly, like just take you to pieces, figure out how you work, and instantly put you back. They can just look and instantly know how you work, and then just put you back together. And would you feel that, or would it, I guess, depends on how fast it would happen. Because if it happens too fast, your brain won't even register that it happened. He's like, oh, you, and somebody saw it. But then you would think if it was moving that fast, faster than your brain could register it, that it would happen faster than the human eye could register it, you know. That's like when somebody gets shot and they get hit, and it happens so fast that they didn't know they've been hit. And all you heard the sound. But of course the sound happens and the bullet's already going, hit its target. You know, until you really hear the sound. The person was like, oh, I've been hit, but you didn't see, not like you saw the bullet like going into their body. And then it happened so fast then that they didn't even, they felt something. But the bullet's already either in them or it's already penetrated them. So it was something like that. But so, because at first I was like, okay, this thing seems to it would just keep growing and absorb everything. It wants to make a paradise, but it'll do it for whatever. So when it's around, it's absorbing it. The thing, it's atmospheric, so that's what I thought, like, okay, it's absorbing different elements around it, like oxygen, carbon monoxide, whatever. Like if you had helium in it, it would just absorb that. Then it starts absorbing inorganic material. So if it's sitting on a table, it'll absorb that. Any metal, I guess, around it, the floor. Then it seems to particularly need organic material to start growing faster and more and more and more. So when it gets humans or like animals or whatever, then it starts growing even faster and more and more and more. And then it's trying to understand whatever it comes in contact with that it can detect has a more developed consciousness. It tries to understand you or it or whatever, and tries to make a paradise. So is this thing made to make life better? Because I'm curious, because if that's the case, who made the SCP-003 to keep it in check? Like, did they make it where, okay, it's only going to expand to a point and then stop, and this thing is supposed to keep it in check? And someone made it to keep that in check. But then they said this thing was made thousands of years ago. It was like, you would think it was like, okay, did someone made this because I want to create a paradise, and it's going to absorb everything, the whole planet, and then see the most intelligent life on it and make a paradise for them and maybe the animals and stuff like that. Because now, if it's reading everybody, let's say it's trying to make a paradise for everybody where everyone can coexist, I could see that. But then if that was the intention, something happened that made them like, okay, we can't do this. Like, well, we need to keep this in check. Oh, we can't destroy it now, so we need to make this SCP-0032 to put on it to stop it and make it go back to its original state once it makes it go down to, what's it, 100 degrees Celsius. So it's interesting, like, because I mean, of course, I'm just speculating, because I'm like, if you made something that's supposed to make things better, but then of course they probably saw this thing just engulfing people, and then these people came back out like those researchers did, and they said, oh yeah, this thing tore us apart. They put us back together and trying to figure us out, and these people now have psychological issues because of that. Like, they might have PTSD or whatever, night terrors or what have you. So they now have like I said, psychological issues. Yeah, that might not be the best, but I guess if it can complete it and absorbs everything that makes a paradise, I guess it wouldn't matter, because it would just figure you out. Which I'm like, why did it tear you apart and put you back together if it can basically read your mind and show you your thoughts? Because it showed this guy everything he's ever thought in like 3 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. So it's interesting. It almost sounds like the Matrix, like what they said, it's supposed to be perfect, but then the people rejected it when they made the Matrix perfect, and they had to actually give people some sense of control, even though it's not real control, but that gives them the sense that they're in control of their own life. I wonder if that's what that is, or if the thing is genuinely just trying to help, and like, hey, I'm trying to create a paradise, but I don't really know how you work, so I'm just, I'm tearing you apart when you about to get, but you'll be fine, and it's like a therapeutic massage. Like, it hurts like a motherfucker, but you will feel amazing afterwards. But anyway, I'm gonna put a link in the description down below, so you can go to the Vulcan, check out their channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed my reaction, which I hope you did, you can like, comment, subscribe. And I just threw my whole ending off, and I'm like, what? But now I'd appreciate that. So I'll see y'all next time. Peace.